Well, certainly that's an idea that I've been talking about, because, one of the things our nations are saying to us is, look, you want to continue to run this railroad, you need to be able to show us that there's something in this for us. And it's got to be something beyond, a laborer's job. So, we're starting to talk about the idea of, well, why don't we just turn it over to the First Nations to operate it? They can own and operate a railroad. They do it successfully in northern Quebec. I mean, it's a much different service, but there's no reason why we couldn't do that here on the island. And it certainly would put that value back in the hands of the First Nations, in the interest of our First Nations partners. And it makes everybody kind of happy, because the regional districts, who are the other side of that partnership, are also happy because they're getting their needs met through the transportation system. So yeah, I'm real big on that idea, and it's one that I hope we progress further down the line as we go through this conversation. We're talking about $350 million that does the entire island here. And, with that $350 million, you're going to get a small commuter system in the Langford corridor. You're going to get interregional trains that are going to operate all the way to Courtenay. You're going to get freight trains that go to Port Alberni, and you're going to get excursion trains that are going to operate for the tourist seasons. So, it's relatively inexpensive. And for whatever reason, rail always attracts that question. And, my counter to that is, are we asking the same question about the highway? And are we asking the same question about the ferry? And are we asking the same question about the bus? For everybody always wants to point to rail and say, well, it's got to pay for itself. We actually think this has a good chance of paying for itself, but it's an interesting dynamic when you ever get into these conversations. It's the money. It's always the money.